Hi, it's Paul with this week's Winning Investor Daily. I just read a shocking, truly stunning report. And in this report, it makes a radical and totally incredible and really somewhat amazing prediction. And the prediction is that this energy sector is set to rocket. And when I mean rocket, I really mean rocket higher by the year 2050. It sounds far away. However, when I tell you the scale of what we're talking about, which is that this sector is set to skyrocket by 65 times, 65 fold. So if you were putting $1,000, for example, in something that was growing at that rate, every $1,000 returned to $65,000. Every $10,000 returned to $650,000. So this is a big deal. So what is this energy sector? Well, it's solar power, solar energy. So I was reading this report from this very prestigious insurance company that issues this report every year about the energy transition that's going on, where we're moving on from fossil fuels to more sustainable energy, alternative energy. I call it new energy, and it's a mega trend across all of my services. And this report, which is based on very credible research that's been done by people that have been following this trend for many years now, they say that solar power is set to zoom by 65 fold by the year 2050. And you'll see in the article that covers this report, and I provided a link to the article, the research suggests that by 2050, 40% of the world's power will come from solar energy. Just think about that, 40%. Just a few years ago, that was a single digit number. It's going to be 40%. Even more incredibly, and you'll see why this is important when I get to the end of this Winning Investor Daily, 30% of that is going to come from rooftops. In other words, from installing solar power on the roofs of houses and businesses. And a small amount will also come from these solar farms, because some people I know object to solar power because they believe that it cuts trees down and uses up land, but only 0.3% of land mass is expected to be used by solar power. So this really addresses the objection that many people have. This report also has other good news for other related fields, which is like storage power, battery power, which by my reckoning is set to grow 40-fold. And this is related to solar power because the idea is that you would get your power from your roof and then it would go into a battery. And the really big shocker in this report is that this is all expected to happen as more and more people benefit, share, and participate in the miracle of electricity. I grew up in India when really we never could really take electricity for granted. And this report expects that by 2028, 95% of all people around the world will have access to electricity, and that half of the world's cars and light trucks will also be running on electricity. So this is a revolution. This is not a small thing. This is why we can see a 65-fold increase happening in solar power. Now, some of you will be like, hey, Paul, you're hyping this. And okay, fair enough. However, even if this were half true, even if this were quarter true, it would still mean straight line growth from where we are today. And really, it would mean absolutely incredible, astonishing growth. And especially when you consider what has been going on with these solar power stocks. If you go and look at solar stocks right now, you'll see that they're dirt cheap. To prepare for this Winning Investor Daily, I looked up an ETF. It's the Invesco Solar ETF. And it's down 40% in the last 6 months, 40%. And that's crazy when you consider what I just told you, which is we are setting up for a complete revolution in our energy systems. And when I went and looked at the ETF, I understand why it's been down, which is that this is a global ETF and because it's a global industry. And so it's been hit by concerns around trade wars and tariffs. However, I really believe that a turn is going to come sooner rather than later. And it's going to be huge. It's going to be massive because these stocks are going to turn on a dime because of the growth prospects that I just laid out for you. And when that happens, this ETF is going to soar higher because of all the things I've laid out for you in this Winning Investor Daily. Now, this ETF will do perfectly well. However, I know from being on Wall Street long enough and from looking at the performance of ETFs versus individual stocks, if you really want to get the big winners, the huge 100,000% winners, you need to be in the dominant leading stocks in this industry. And those are the kinds of stocks I focus on in Profits Unlimited, which is my base service, my flagship service, and also my 3 other services where we really focus on these leading dominant stocks that have stocks that can soar and that can really skyrocket when things go right. So if you're the kind of investor that likes these big, extraordinary gains, sign up for Profits Unlimited so you can start getting in on these kinds of stocks. So that's my Winning Investor Daily for this week, which is I'm telling you to buy into this Invesco solar ETF. And you'll see here, I've given you the ticker, which is TAN, and you'll have some details that are listed in there, and you can also look it up online. And as I mentioned, it's been down. However, I believe that it's going to go up. So if you like this video, give this video a big thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already subscribed to it, and share this with your friends and family so we can continue to keep making these videos for you. Until next week, this is Paul saying bye.